All right, we saw Bitcoin get above that $65,000 price range, and I think we're well on our way now to potentially hitting that $72,000 price range. So I'm going to be breaking that down for you in this YouTube video. And if you're excited for that, do me a favor and smash up those likes. And while you're down there, check out the links in the description to the best exchanges in the game, 30K in free cash with Bybit, their decentralized sister exchange, and Blowfin as a phenomenal alternative for thousands of dollars in bonuses as usual. Keep in mind your country's local laws and regulations, because you might not be allowed to use these depending on where you are, but super cool stuff. We'll get to that in a little bit. What we've got right now is way more interesting than what we've been seeing previously, because we are now back above our most critical zones of resistance, ladies and gents. This $65,000 price level definitely having a very strong impact on the market if we take a look at some of the support that we've been getting here, some of the resistance that we've been getting here. But now, no matter what happens, Bitcoin has conclusively punched in a new set of higher lows and a new set of higher highs. So that is absolutely fantastic news. It's telling us that we are very much on track to continue to trend upwards. And now, for me, there's a couple of things that I want to do to tell me how high I think Bitcoin can go. Before I get to any of that, I want to understand what's the worst case scenario for Bitcoin now. And in order to answer that question, we've got to start basically going back and just looking at where are the significant levels on this chart. And for me, the significant levels on this chart are pretty easy to identify. We've got this one over here that's about, $60,000. I think everybody is very well aware of that. We've got, I guess this one right here, which is kind of what we've just overcome. So about 65, 64K. And then in between, you could probably put down another line right here at about 63K, right? So we've got, kind of every $2,000, there's another nice kind of block of resistance for Bitcoin here, or at least there was resistance and now it's support. And that's where I think Bitcoin could be getting a little bit of relief, right? Like if this thing, because so far, ever since we kind of set the high at about the mid 66 range, we've kind of been trending down slowly. If this thing slowly trends down for another day or two into Monday or Tuesday, then I think we're going to have a really nice kind of support zone here waiting for Bitcoin, which would be absolutely great in terms of offering some support for Bitcoin as well. And we're also going to start seeing that lining up with some of our key indicators, right? Here's the 4-hour EMA ribbon showing us very clearly that there is a ton of support down here for Bitcoin, which is absolutely fantastic. If we take a look at this on the daily time frame, it's going to take some time. It's probably going to take about a week from now, but we are going to be seeing support climbing up as well. So I think that's absolutely great. If we look at this with the 𝐁𝐥𝐸𝐽 cloud, still nothing going on here on the daily, but that resistance is closing up, which I think is going to be very helpful for Bitcoin in the future, because what it does mean is we're going to start to develop a green cloud somewhere in this range, which means that if Bitcoin were to get a little bit higher and then really get smacked down, that is your next lower high that would be coming in there. So that would also be looking pretty sweet. So this is all the standard stuff that happens in an uptrend, but I'm just kind of showing you what this would look like in real life. If we look at this on a smaller time frame, then the 4-hour here is very bullish. There's kind of no way for this to go wrong. With all of the support that Bitcoin has, which I think is fantastic. But that's a really big claim. So let's actually check that and see what could make this go wrong. And, I think for me, it's going to be losing the $61,000 price range, right? I mean, we could still drop as low as kind of 53 and it would still kind of be a higher low. But I think losing 61 just puts us, below so much resistance that, I think it would be a very weak position for Bitcoin to be in at this point. And I also think that, enough is enough, in some other ways, right? I mean, if we kind of measure this is now 7 months of sideways, basically not really sideways, but just 7 months of kind of consolidation, 7 months of a continuation pattern. We're very familiar with 7-month waits because that's what we had last time, right? Back here in 2023. This one lasted about 220 days. So far, we're in a pattern that's lasting about 213 days. So extremely similar time frames. And obviously, it resulted in huge bullish breakouts. So that's what I think is happening here, which is why I think that we're kind of done, right? Like I can't, look, it can happen, right? We can obviously just end up, losing ground again and things get bad. I mean, I wouldn't want to be super surprised if that were to happen. But at the same time, I'm running out of reasons to expect something like that. For me, from what I'm seeing, it's looking more like there's actually good stuff on the horizon for Bitcoin. And again, that's because there's so much support in this range, right? So I think that the worst case scenario for Bitcoin is losing 61, but to get down there in the first place means Bitcoin has to break a lot of support. And, that could happen, but I think Bitcoin's looking a little bit stronger than that right now. So I think that's not too concerning. We're going to come back to Bitcoin in just a second, but I can't continue talking about this without looking at the S&P 500. And the S&P 500 is beautiful here. It's going to open tomorrow, but what we have is new all-time highs being set consistently once again, right? So the S&P 500 is looking incredibly strong. The dollar, by comparison, is looking very weak, and it's looking like it might be ready to kind of roll over and drop by quite a bit. There's not a whole lot of support here for the dollar until kind of 97, 96, which is a huge drop for the dollar on this index. And I think, again, the S&P 500 is reflecting that very, very well, showing us once again here that while traditional finance is happy, Bitcoin is also happy. The correlation is incredibly clear. Let's take a look at SEI. It's just up by 16% today. What's going on here? Wow, look at that. We are rapidly approaching this block of resistance, which I think is going to be a big problem. This is probably where most people are going to get bullish because most people are stupid. But yeah, that's looking pretty sweet for a potential, even a short position, actually. Having said that, because yeah, an entry, look at that. You got very, very big potential for targets here. But let's say a stop loss somewhere around here. You got 6-7% risk with 20% upside, a 3 risk to reward ratio. That's pretty clean. Nice little, whatever, 4x, 3x leverage trade. Probably about 80 to 100% profit on the upside there would be super, super nice. So that looks like a cool position. Not necessarily something I'd trade, but of course SEI and all the other coins that we talk about in these videos are tradable on every exchange linked down below. And again, when you do start trading using these exchanges, you're going to get a ton of cash for free deposited into your account, which you can trade with, and any profits that you generate with that capital are yours to keep, which is super, super cool. Again, well worth checking out Blowfin as an alternative as well, because they are giving you heavy bonuses. It's just good to diversify, to kind of spread risk out. Those of you that love Bybit, if you're a VIP member, you're actually going to get free access to the Bybit debit card, which is sick. I've been using the Bybit debit card all over the world, and I love it. I couldn't go without it. And if you guys would like to get in on that, then you can just get yourself signed up on Bybit. And as soon as you're VIP, meaning meeting any of these requirements, you're good to go. So good stuff there. Let's bring it back to the chart, though. Let's talk a little bit about Bitcoin. I got some interesting tweets that I want to be talking to you about, especially to do with altcoins as well. So we're going to be talking about that stuff in a minute. But if we do bring it back to Bitcoin here, that's the kind of downside covered. We've got some really nice support. As far as upside goes, 67 is still the major support zone for resistance zone for Bitcoin right now. And in fact, I think if we did take the fixed range volume profile, it's still going to tell us the same picture. Actually, it has moved up a little bit. Look at that. It has moved up a little bit now. Let's actually move this up into a more relevant kind of starting point. And we do have that value area high now sitting at 68.7. Before it was sitting at 67. So this has moved up by a little bit, but not by a whole lot. I think the point of control was actually higher, wasn't it? Let's take a look at this. Yeah, the point of control was actually at about 67. So the value area high was always kind of a little bit higher. So I think still clearly an important kind of level in this market. If we just kind of mark this off with a box, I think it's going to be looking something a little bit like, probably something a little bit like this. It's a bit of a bigger box, but that's okay. And I think that's going to be the next kind of block of resistance for Bitcoin. But, it's just getting lighter as we go up, right? I think as long as Bitcoin can carry enough strength with it to get up there, I'm not concerned about this level breaking. I think that this level could definitely break. And I think that there could be very, very good things on the other side of that because, it's just, it's thin atmosphere up here, right? Like it takes less energy to continue moving up at this point. And I think, one of the big reasons for that, which just makes sense on a logical level, is that, when we're getting up to all-time highs, nobody really wants to sell anymore, right? Unless people feel like, they need to kind of offload their bags and, take profits and, de-risk a little bit, which makes a lot of sense. But that's already been happening for 7 months, right? We've been trending to the highs of this range for 7 months. And, at some point, you've just got to say, okay, it looks like the sellers are exhausted, and it's hard to say when the sellers are exhausted. There are different tools you can use for it. There are different metrics you can analyze. But the bottom line is that if it's been 7 months, you're a lot more likely to see sellers being exhausted after a long period of time versus after a short period of time. In other words, it's becoming more and more likely, in my view, and the view of many other very accomplished analysts, it's becoming more and more likely every day that passes that Bitcoin moves up, and not by a little bit, but by a lot. It's becoming more likely every day, in my opinion. And that's because we're holding this range. We're not dropping out of this range. We're right now targeting the highs. The time frames line up. There are a lot of similarities, and I think that it's looking absolutely fantastic in that way. So that's super, super cool, and I'm definitely loving that. As far as upside goes, like I said, I think 68 there, and then we've got the 71, 72 as an all-time highs, but that's just, where things get really, really fun, and I think we're very much on that path right now. If we take a look at the Bitcoin dominance picture, starting off with Ethereum, Ethereum has managed to kind of hold these very, very low levels. Is it going to continue to drop? I don't know. Is this the exact same pattern that we've seen a million times, including these really sad recoveries that don't really kind of result in anything, like this one right here? It looks very similar, actually. So, that's not me saying that it's going to happen again, but it is me saying that over the last 1,000 times it has happened. So I don't know. You be the judge of that. I obviously think that there's more downside here for Ethereum, but I also think that this downside potential is starting to get capped. I don't think that it can drop much lower. I certainly don't think it can drop lower than this level here without it being a major disaster. But we'll just have to wait and see how that goes. I do think that Bitcoin's dominance is in a very good place. We always have people in the altcoin market running laps around themselves, getting super excited that things are changing. But Bitcoin's dominance is doing the same thing it's done for a long time. Sometimes it spikes up a little bit and then kind of returns back down to the lows. But it always seems to continue back upwards. Even if that's what we're doing right now, it seems like that's kind of a very, very common characteristic for the Bitcoin dominance chart, and it's something that I would honestly expect to continue in this market. So I'm going to be watching closely at this Bitcoin dominance chart and just seeing how this continues to evolve. I do want to kind of give some credit to the theories that this Bitcoin dominance is going to start dropping. Obviously, by the way, for those of you that don't know, Bitcoin dominance just basically means how much money is in Bitcoin versus how much money is in altcoins. That's a very, very oversimplified description of what it means. It's not super accurate, but it's good enough if you never knew what this word means, and you can go and do your own research as well. But I think that there are a lot of people kind of suggesting that Bitcoin's dominance is losing momentum. I think that you could have also, take a look at this. Look at how quickly Bitcoin dominance was moving up here and then how slowly it moved up here. You could have easily made the argument that Bitcoin dominance was losing momentum here. You would have gone all in on altcoins, and now Bitcoin dominance is 3% higher, and 3% higher is enough to get very, very liquidated. You would be very liquidated with a 3% Bitcoin dominance move. So, I get it. I think that there are good reasons that people are kind of expecting this Bitcoin dominance to start topping out. I disagree. I firmly disagree. I still think we're going a hell of a lot higher than this. I think it might take some time, right? We can definitely see some gains for altcoins, but I think as soon as Bitcoin gets back above that all-time high, back above 70K rather, and starts setting all-time highs, and if it starts doing very well, moving past its all-time high, I just do not see any potential whatsoever for altcoins to perform well. I think that everything is going to be living in the shadow of Bitcoin. Yes, your altcoins might make some money, but I think it's overwhelmingly likely that Bitcoin will prove to be the better store of value for now until the risk appetites in these markets shift. And I'll be telling you about that when I see it, but so far I haven't seen it, and that's why I'm having these very hard stances against altcoins. With that said, take a look at this. We've got the altcoin market cap excluding the top 10. So this is the crypto market cap excluding the top 10 coins, and there is a big breakout here moving up to a 1.618 fib extension as well. And this is big news showing that the altcoin market could be ready to start rallying up. This works if you believe that everything has to be trending all the time. But if you don't believe that, and if instead you believe that things can actually move sideways, which, by the way, is exactly what's been happening in these markets for a very long time now, you might have been living under a rock, so you might have missed that. But it's like I said earlier on, this was a 7-month period of consolidation, and this is also a 7-month period of some form of consolidation. In this case, it's more of a kind of descending channel, but it's still consolidation nonetheless. And so sideways is actually the way of the market. So I don't really believe in stuff like this. But yeah, I think that a lot of people are definitely going to get excited by the idea that, we are starting to get breakouts. It's just that, breakouts happen all the time, like all the time, but not all of them materialize. And I think that's a really big difference. We got Titan of Crypto here. A monthly gravestone doji is forming on the Bitcoin dominance chart. Alt season is about to hit hard. Are your bags packed and ready to ride this wave? Let me know which alts you're holding. The very typical kind of sentiment that we see across altcoin holders when they see a little bit of sunshine, they run with it. Bless them. They are the most optimistic, hopeful bunch of motherfuckers I've ever seen. We need a little bit more of that in the world. But yeah, I don't see it. I disagree. I think that this is actually really good analysis, though. It looks very compelling. But I don't see it happening. I mean, this chart implies that Bitcoin's dominance is going down to 36% now, which to me basically means that we're in late stage of a bull market. I think that it's possible. I think that it's going to happen, but I just think that happens at late stages of bull markets, and there is a lot of evidence to prove me correct there. For example, this one right here, we saw a big drop in Bitcoin's dominance throughout 2021 to 2022, and that was the end of the bull market. So, that makes a lot of sense here. At the end of the bull market, 2017 to 2018, big drop in Bitcoin dominance, right? So that's the previous 2 major cycles, proving me 100% correct. And I just don't think that we're there yet. I think that there's still a lot of potential. I'd love to be proven wrong. There's a lot of money. There's a lot more money to be made in altcoins than there is in Bitcoin. But timing is important, right? Timing is going to make a really big difference. And that's why I'm saying what I'm saying. The biggest Bitcoin pump could start anytime. Am I prepared? Well, I don't know. Are you guys prepared? You let me know in the comment section. I fully agree with this chart. I just don't like the sentiment. I don't like people kind of running premature celebrations before anything happens. But I mean, the analysis looks correct to me. It makes a lot of sense. And back to Titan of Crypto, another chart showing a potential end of a year Bitcoin rally. Again, something that I completely, fully agree with in this market. So we're going to continue to see how all of that stuff plays out and evolves in this market. I do think that it's looking pretty sweet. I do think that the position that Bitcoin is in now is pretty good. And I think that the invalidation is so far away and has so much support to get there that I am just not too worried about where Bitcoin might end up going. I think that Bitcoin has some very strong potential to find support if it drops and to get above resistance if it can continue to pull off that strength. So that's looking pretty sweet to me. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. You know what to do. If you have phenomenal offers linked down below, always check them out, but be mindful of your country's local laws and regulations before you visit these exchanges. And if you have enjoyed this one, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, tick the bell, and I'll see you all in the next one. Cheers.